Hello out there. My name is Laolu Akonde, and you are on to Inside Sources. But first, here's my take for today: the voices Tinubu, Buhari listen to, and why that matters. In a presidential system of government, such as we have in Nigeria, the significance of the president's kitchen cabinet is central to decision-making. For instance, the hard job of strong coordination and effective delivery of public expectation gets done often by those voices in the kitchen cabinet. Now, this past week, a notable member of the Tinubu kitchen cabinet, Mr. Wale Edun, who was the coordinator of the economy, took his leave from the federal cabinet. But what most people don't know is that for at least 2 years or more, a new set of trusted technocrats had overtaken Edun from his spot in the Tinubu kitchen cabinet. This was so because the president had been listening more and more to Mr. Zak Adedeji of the Nigerian Revenue Service and Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, the new Minister of Finance, on issues of fiscal policy. Obviously, this didn't go well with Edun, and there was a bit of tension. But it was increasingly clear what the preference of the president was. Now, in my view, Oyedele has more energy and has more drive. He's in his early 50s compared to Edun, who is now in his 70s. And also, the new finance minister understands something that is significant, that is the need to engage the people and showcase a bit more transparency in matters of public policy. Mr. Edun missed that, and there are many more people in the president's cabinet who are still missing that. Now, those who understand that is the need to engage with the public, include the often controversial Nyesom Wike. Well, he gets the need to engage with people. The reform-minded Dr. Tunji Alausa, he gets the need to engage with people. Professor Ali Patel, with his international acumen, and of course, the information minister, they all understand why it is important to engage with the people. There are a few more, but very few in the cabinet that really understand that name. So to that extent, not only is the replacement of Edun with Oyedele a reasonable preference of the president, it is also better for the public interest to have someone in that key position who has displayed a higher level of readiness to being accountable to Nigerians. Now, whether that by itself could yield or will yield a significant change in the socio-economic conditions of Nigerians, we will soon find out about that later. But the workings of the cabinet under our previous president, now I'm talking about President Buhari, the workings of the kitchen cabinet was much more intriguing. Let me share some of the story with you today in a jiffy. President Buhari had a strong kitchen cabinet which has come to be known most as the cabal. The arrowhead in the villa then was the late Malam Abba Kyari, who was the chief of staff to President Buhari. There were other important members of that group, such as the elder statesman, who was the central figure in the cabal, but was outside of government. I'm talking of Malam Maman Daura. There was also people like Baba Gana Kingibe and Ismaila Funtua, who has passed, and few others. For the most part, certain ministers, especially those in key posts, take ideas and sometimes informal instructions from the Buhari cabal. Many of them had to. Some ministers who had a difference of opinion, on the other hand, difference of opinion with the cabal, suffered retribution, including being blocked from seeing the president. Only a few weeks ago, a former secretary to the government of the Federation said here on Inside Sources that someone paid 50 million to prevent him from seeing the president. That's President Buhari. That's an illustration of the absurdity of access to the president of Nigeria. It's a really absurd thing. So critical is the power of the kitchen cabinet, aka cabal, that in the case of the Buhari administration, the cabal managed to knock off the apparent heir to the office of the chief of staff right after the victorious campaign in June 2015. This was besides the fact that some of the cabal members didn't even campaign with Buhari nor believe that he could win. Yet, the Buhari cabal were so powerful to remove someone who actually worked in the campaign and had resumed work in the villa, taking the role of the chief of staff to the president. I'm talking of retired Colonel Hamid Ali, who was the chief of staff to Buhari during the campaigns. And he actually continued in that job after the new president was sworn in then. Ali moved with the president first to the defense house after they were sworn in, because Aso Villa was still being refurbished for the new occupants. And he continued for a while, but there were no formal announcement of his position. It wasn't formally announced. But we all saw him doing the work of the chief of staff, just like some of us were also playing our roles already at that time without any formal announcement or appointment. But the cabal had a different agenda, and they were very determined not to allow someone they didn't endorse to become the chief of staff. So President Buhari later had to name Ali, a very distinguished retired officer, I must say, and a very honest Nigerian, to lead the customs. Now, why is that narration important? Here's the point. The kitchen cabinets are the real power behind the throne. They make things happen. A president, no matter how decisive, will still bounce ideas and hear the voices of those in his kitchen cabinet a lot, and often will still listen to their ideas and adopt their views many times. In the case of President Buhari, this happened very, very frequently. Again, let's ask, why does that matter who is in the kitchen cabinet? Because they get to have their ways even when ministers or other officials appointed to particular assignments don't agree with them. Let me give you one example. The Minister for Health in the Buhari first term, an eminently qualified man, Professor Isaac Adewale, wanted to discipline a particular head of an agency under his purview who was alleged to be corrupt, and he suspended the said official. The cabal went after him, frustrated that attempt, and ensured that the minister was not welcomed back to the second term of the president because of that matter, it's believed. Now, that is besides the story of how First Lady herself, Mrs. Aisha Buhari, was dealt with and sidelined in what was public knowledge then and has even become more public knowledge now. Here's my point. You can tell how well or how poor a president will perform by the kind of people that he surrounds himself with. Some of the errors of the Buhari presidency can be traced to the way and manner some in his kitchen cabinet were running rings around him. Adi Sirika is a very good example of such. Presidents often tolerate their cabals, and Buhari did that a lot. Now, President Tinubu, on the other hand, doesn't seem to even tolerate the idea of such an outgoing and in-your-face cabal like Buhari. And the resignation, quote unquote, of Edu is evidence that unlike Buhari, if and when necessary, Tinubu can send even his core kitchen cabinet members packing. And that is a good thing. But there is even a better way, which is where President Tinubu is still lagging behind. Any highly successful president must have in his kitchen cabinet people who can look him in the eye and say, no, sir, that is not in the best interest of the public or yourself. I mean, people who can enforce order and get government business successfully coordinated. I'm talking about coordination. You must give it to Abba Kyari. God bless his soul. He did that work in the Buhari administration, even if there are questions and controversies about many things that he did. Governor Tinubu of Lagos between 1999 and 2007 certainly also understood the imperative of a solid kitchen cabinet, especially when he surrounded himself with people such as Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola, Professor Yemi Oshibajo, SAN, Mr. Dele Alake, among others. A transformative president and leader needs such people. Emphasis is on such people. Does Asiwaju Bola Tinubu have such people today in his inner cabinet? Are we seeing the handiwork of an enforcer or effective coordination in his presidency? I don't think we are seeing that very much. But this is when he needs people like those more than when he was governor. I'm talking of Tinubu. The work of Nigeria's president is far more daunting than the work of the Lagos governor. And there you have it. Inside Sources goes full blast after this. Welcome back to Inside Sources. Today we want to have a real discussion about the changes that is taking place in the President Tinubu cabinet, a very important one that happened a few days ago when the coordinating Minister of the Economy and the Minister of Finance resigned, as it was said by the presidency. So we want to look at the implications of this and some of the dynamics around Nigeria's economic policies. To join me in that important conversation, I have a leading policy analyst, Mr. Ademola Adigun. Mr. Adigun, it's good to have you again on Inside Sources.
Thank you, sir. It's been some time.
All right, it's been a while, but this is good timing too. So,
Yes, sir.
What's your own take? Let's kick it off like that. What's your take on the fact that a very powerful member of the Tinubu administration had to step down and was replaced?
Yeah. Being honest, it wasn't unexpected. The trend had been there from last year, November, for most people, when it's seen the issues around movement around that ministry and information disseminated outside about a possible change. So I don't think anybody who is watching policy would have said it was unexpected. It was something that people expected to happen. And the point that people don't know, or I don't know, is the reason for it. Because for all intents and purposes, Mr. Waledun was a stabilizing factor in the administration, and for most of us, a long-time friend of the president, based on what we read in papers. So when Mrs. Doris was brought into the Ministry of Finance, people started asking that science again. When she was moved to the Budget and Planning Ministry, it was also there. And then when Idolita came into the ministry, everybody would have said it's a matter of time. Because again, the whispers were already there. It was always filtering outside there. And it's funny, this was the first time I can recall that you have Minister of State under the Connecting Ministry's Economy's portfolio. Maybe it has happened before, and I'm not well aware of that. But it has happened.
No, but he's now full minister.
No. I said yes. Before, said the movements had shown. So he's not the minister now. I said, but before then, we had a minister. We didn't have anybody under Mr. Waledun. He was Mr. CME, that was Minister of State.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, Minister of State was appointed, and the portfolio was divided.
Yeah.
A lot of power was taken away from the minister, given to the Minister of State. This was all public information.
Right.
And it now became more like a figurative minister of economy, where Doris seemed to be the proper minister of finance. So there was an anomaly in terms of the way it has always occurred in the country. And what we read in papers and what we heard didn't show there's a lot of confidence by the president in Mr. Waledun at that time anymore. So there's nothing new. Then the change shifted again, and then they moved her out, and then things seemed to go back to normal. And then this happened. So I don't think it was unexpected, being honest.
Okay. So how do you think that kind of change, how do you think it will affect public perception?
The perception has been very bad because there are three ways people see it. Mr. Waledun was the one that the face of the economy internationally. Imagine the day he was removed. He just came back from the spring meeting. On the day he was removed, he was one engaging with IMF, World Bank, the multilaterals, and donors. Is the one that Fitch Ratings and Co have been engaging with. So one way or other, it brought some stability in terms of understanding of what to do and a lot of conversations. Now, again, being fair, nobody's indispensable. We saw Mr. Obasanjo remove Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala at the point when we thought she was very critical and indispensable asset in those days. So it's nothing unrepeated. But in this case, the economy is still at a very tight place. So whatever reasons they had, I don't think that process was properly managed. I think it would have been better done. I think you've only got a few months of elections. You could have rode whatever winds and storms that there were onto election time. And then after that, you could have done your changes after then, and then will have been a new button. But maybe there are things we don't know that they know, or things they saw. And then the spin about him resigning, I mean, that was a very poor spin. Nobody believes them. I don't think the person typing the memo believes himself when he was typing that himself. But it's okay. This is what happens in public.
Yeah, I mean, and I've made this point that, the best way to have managed that would have been for the presidential spokesperson to be the one to announce. So if he announced it and we had it first from him and he says that he resigned, people are likely going to believe it. But if you look at the statement of from the SGF office, it even talks about the fact that there was need for synergy and better, effective.
Correct.
So
what was wrong? Yeah. So it was clear. And then you would have allowed him to go to the spring meeting and come back early that morning and start working on key matters of the economy. And then you would have done that maybe before he went. And allowed somebody else to go for that. You'll have changed, or asked someone to go with him. One of the problems we have in leadership in many places, this communication gap and managing crisis. Crisis management can be a big effect on the economy and others. In more sensitive places where stock markets are very reactive, it could have caused a lot of erosion of trust in the markets and the others. And again, it takes some time.
But it didn't quite do that.
Because Nigeria has a kind of funny system that is not very...
our own emotional attachments.
I do not... Nobody can fathom how this economy works. It works on the funny ways I can't understand. I mean, what you think would shock the economy does shock the economy. What you think will shock the economy is already there. So I think if a minister in the US resigns, he might have more effect on the Nigerian economy than Nigerian minister resigning. But that's what it is. Yeah.
But let's look at some of the things that were in the public, just before Mr. Edwin had to leave. Number one, there was the issue of the budget, being rolled over seemingly endlessly. 2024 budget, roll over up to 2025 budget now has had to roll over, up onto up till June, although we now have a 2026. Now, how do you, you deal, with a lot of these issues, both nationally and internationally. How do you think that affects, the perception of government when it seems that there's a struggle around budget implementation?
It's a weakness, and it's a very damning statement on performance. The way we've been taught is the budget is the biggest policy statement of a government. When you say you're making a policy, the budget is your policy statement. It tells you where you want to go, what you finance, what you prioritize. That's what the budget is.
Yeah.
Over the years, and over several governments have managed to improve the budgeting process. Again, we can put the blame on three spaces. The inefficiency of the institutions like National Assembly, who allowed that to happen. Under the law, shouldn't allow that to happen. There's a fiscal discipline, all these things are there, all these fiscal laws are there. And these laws were signed and promoted by National Assembly. So why do they allow it? Why can't you collapse one budget and finish the budget and start on that budget? And then they also affected implementation. There were days when you see people camped in front of Ministry of Finance. You saw contractors begging for their money, carrying coffins and everything, and other things like that.
That was quite hard.
Yeah, but again, they were dying too.
Yeah.
They took loans to do the work and everything. And the whole process was convoluted and complicated, something that should be very simple. You would think a government who's had experience in managing a subnational, because Mr. Walidin was commissioner in Lagos, wasn't he?
Yeah.
The president was the governor in Lagos.
For the first time.
Yeah, so all of them should have that knowledge and experience. It's not a new government per se that was totally green. So for me, it was a damning statement of inefficiency, ineffectiveness, and a lack of policy coherence and synergy. And you couldn't blame the minister alone for that. That's a blame all of them have to take at the federal, at the executive, and at the legislative arm. It's their fault.
Although there are information in the public that some of the ministers in the cabinet had actually gone to complain to the president that they had no
capital.
I think the case of Professor Ali Pate was very open.
38 million naira relief.
Yeah.
It's a mess. And again, for me, that is an indicator of the thinking around...
Is it thinking of, or are we really struggling with resources indeed that we don't have? Are we so cash-trapped in your view?
No, I don't think we're that cash-trapped. I know by performance, in terms of revenue, performance has been lagging. Let me say it in a very simple way. We've decided to have a culture of deceit in everything we do. A culture of lying to ourselves, lying to our principals, lying to the economy, and everything. But you see, you can't lie and the economy responds to lies. You can say you have achieved budget sufficiency when you have not done that. You can't tell people that, oh, we made this revenue target when it doesn't show in your bottom line. There has been no effort to curtail expenditure. There has been no effort to manage the current expenditure. There has been no symbolic effort to even show that you're aligned with the pains of many of Nigerians. That hasn't happened. And then when you now keep on going from one year to the other, rolling out and saying, oh, targets are done, and then the numbers tell you a lie. It's like when you go to a doctor and say, I feel normal, and your blood pressure numbers are terrible. You feel normal, but your blood pressure is telling you are very high. That's the numbers you can't see. So I think that's the challenge we had. And I think, again, it's that failure of honesty that is affecting us. Most projects are designed to fail by design. From my experience, whenever we are doing, for instance, the all revenue accrual, they just send a number that they think is realistic. This is how much we can produce based on what we have on ground. Somebody that doesn't know the figures says, jack it up. So if I say I can do 1.6 million barrels.
Probably in the National Assembly.
Probably even the presidency. Because maybe any PLC or any PLC majorly says, oh, we only do 1.4 million barrels. Then it gets to the presidency. Somebody says, this is too much small money, make it 1.7. But we have not done 1.7 in 5 years. No, we'll do 1.7. So you're projecting hope into a budget based on non-realistic. Then when it gets to National Assembly said, oh, your benchmark is too low. How can you have $65 for benchmark? Now, there's a formula that you should use for benchmarking. They will not use that formula. They'll just arbitrarily think, slam. Then when the budget is now even now approved by the president, they now goes to what we call the padding, which technically shouldn't be a padding. But the only person that showed guts to challenge that process was Yaradua when he took them to court before he died. And that would have brought some sanity into the budget process. Because you can't plan for me. I know what I am earning. So it's like a husband or a wife earning a money and somebody saying you are living on top. You don't know what I'm earning. I'm telling you what I'm earning. And that is the beginning of the failure of system. And then the agencies of government itself have lack financial discipline and fiscal discipline. A budget is a statement of intent. It's not a statement of actual. When you make a budget, you say, this is what I intend to, based on the reality that comes in. Now, how do you start awarding contracts based on intent? So that's what happened with the contractors. So a lot of MDAs, based on intent and what they felt was approval, and the insertions by our honorables and our senators and their constituency, whatever, 2 billion, 1 billion, they put in thing, then it comes. But then it's not funded. Something occurs. Tax revenue expressions don't happen. All revenue projections don't happen. All the projections that come from VAT and other things don't happen. Then you have a fund that's not implementable. And then you have a problem. You have to prioritize what you spend money on. You've got to pay salaries. Your contractors to go on board. You've got to do other things. And then you think a government that's cash-strapped would think about creating new agencies of government. Or in fact, implementing a rational report, which they promised to implement. But when they said they implement it, I told my friends, I said, if they do that, I'm going to stop talking about Nigerian politics. But
that is certainly over 1 year now.
They cannot do it. There's a
committee that was set up.
Anytime there's a committee set up to do anything in Nigeria, it's not going to happen. A committee is the penalty of saying this will not happen anymore. It's a way of pushing your power to somebody to say, tell me why we will not do it. So we have that issue that around the line. You are creating institutions everywhere. You are creating just everywhere. Take off grants. Everybody's creating a polytechnic, creating a university, creating something. How are we going to ever survive on that crisis? So it's a challenge.
But otherwise, you don't think that Nigeria is cash strapped?
No, we're not cash strapped. You see, we had cash challenges. I'll credit this government for one thing. I'll credit them. They've stopped the bad habit of printing money that we have experienced under the Buhari regime, which led to inflation and soaring destruction of the economy. But they haven't brought fiscal discipline into the process. You have to have fiscal discipline. You can't base a budget on borrowing above a certain ratio. Your borrowing numbers should not reflect more than, if you're borrowing for capital exclusively,
right,
then it's realistic. Then you're saying, okay, this budget is tied to a capital project, which will be completed under this year and under this synergy. But when it's convoluted, your financial inflows are not properly marked or properly delineated, then you have what this conversion we have. Why would a Ministry of Health have only 38 million for capital?
Yeah, that was what was released.
And the man had to say that because people were expecting to perform. And that's the kind of things you saw every day. And that's why you saw it was embarrassing when you see them, Minister of Finance every day. You see them with their drums and It was really an embarrassment for government.
Right.
So they sorted that out really. And what I hear underneath is this. The agency is mandated to develop the budget and not the ones developing it. Yes, that's being truthful.
The agency mandated to develop the budget.
Mandated and not the ones developing it. You can't bring a budget from outside and give to a Ministry of Budget and Planning to implement. That itself will cause convulsions in your process.
So you mean that because there is a budget office?
There should be a budget office.
Yeah.
That exists in name.
Yeah. And actually, there is now a budget director.
There's a very experienced person.
Interesting.
But if you have a budget office, you have...
And that's Dr. Tanimu, by the way.
Yes, a very experienced, former economic advisor of the government, somebody very capable, sound mind.
So you are saying that it doesn't seem as if he's the one that...
From the rumors we hear, the budget doesn't seem to come from his office. It comes from external parties, and they're given to them. And everybody's now giving a budget. So how do you own something you didn't co-create?
Interesting.
So if you don't allow institutions to function efficiently, there are so many anomalies in this government in the economic management space. There are too many that for anybody, they could have done better than they're doing. But I think there's a high level of politics, a high level of issues that are really there, and a clash of powers. It's very, very funny.
Clash of power between who and who now?
Well, the elements. So because the way it's somebody done is, we had a tax reform, which was a good thing.
Yeah.
When you do a tax reform, it's led by the Ministry of Finance. This wasn't led by the Ministry of Finance.
Yeah.
That itself is an indicator of a big challenge.
I think that, and I made this point in my take, I think, and then I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No problem,
back, but I wanted to make this point so that you can also take it in alongside. I think that the president chose to rely on Mr. Zach Adedeji more, and of course Mr. Oyedele in that tax reform than the minister. And I think that was part of the point of dispersal where people knew that this thing wasn't going well. Because from what I know, very clearly, a lot of the president's actions, as a matter of fact, Zach was writing many memos that should normally come from finance. Look, it's not a rumor in this town anymore that they revert to Zach as the prime minister because so that's just to I'm
glad you said what I can't say, but since you've said it, it is true.
Yeah.
And that itself is a crisis that's brewing. You see, I think our leaders need to think generational thinking and not think about traditional thinking, which is what they do about. It's a history. In Nigeria, when you look at budget reports, Lagos State remains the least transparent amongst many states. Because
Lagos State makes most money out of all the states.
4 billion and everything, because of the way they do things. So when you import a system such as that...
You mean Lagos State even currently or in the past?
Up to now, there's nothing transparent about Lagos State. Lagos State is opaque. Lagos people are different. They think they know everything and they overrate themselves. And when they
it's still the center of excellence.
Let's be honest, this is not center of anything. But that's another issue entirely.
Yeah.
But the point being made is this: you can't bypass national processes. You can't have the chairman of the National Revenue Service leading some issues. You can't have memos that should proceed from a minister of an economy coming from non-mandated people. It creates a chaos. And that's why presidents will say this, minister will say that, and what minister said and what president said doesn't tally because you're not thinking from saying him shit.
Yeah, that happened when they talking about
4 or 5 times.
Targets,
Yes, targets, expenditure patterns, and others. When you give people a job, you let them do the job. Now, if you have no confidence in them doing the job, take them out of the job.
Which has happened.
Possibly. We'll watch what happens on the next
going forward.
Yeah. So then do that. But don't create a system that creates chaos. This is design chaos. Properly designed chaos. And why people design chaos, the only reason why people throw up thieves come in the night is because it's dark and nobody can see what's happening.
Yeah.
When you want people to see what's happening, you allow it to be open.
Yeah.
And that makes it more efficient. And that will allow people to really judge. And it will boost the efforts that you are making. But for whatever reasons they're not doing that.
Now, and so let's talk about how that, this seeming chaos, which let's even say for the purposes of assumption and argument that the president wants to sort it out. That's why he said, okay, look, you go, let these folks, that I trust and depend on, let them do it. I mean, after all, they are the ones writing the memo. Let's just give him the job. Okay.
Why don't you bring him to be Minister of Finance? Sir.
Yeah. But the point is that how does that affect the Nigerian, the average Nigerian? This kind of chaos, like you have described it. Can we say that you can trace it to the level of impact in the,
maybe you say the lack of impact. Maybe the better word is the lack of impact. Every time you try and show the headlines of this government reforms, and there are some headlines that are good.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody will tell you, being power, we're hungry.
Mm.
Before I came in to this interview, somebody I met at the waiting room was like, this government is blah, blah, blah. Early in the morning, a customer called me from Ife. He said, Egmo, Oleo, the poverty levels are astronomical and flying because there's no concerted strategy of translation of gains of the top into the bottom. If one thing they're feeling is lack of synergy and lack of coordination, and because there is no strategy. You have an ad hoc financial process, ad hoc economic process, which is more responsive, not coordinated, not synced, not sequenced, being impacted on Nigerians. And that's why many more people are entering poverty. I mean, you had noble intents. Taking subsidy out was something we'd all acclaimed for a long time, but there was no plan to mitigate the effects of taking it out. Devaluing the currency was something you needed to do to attract more investment, stabilize your currency, and stop printing currency. But what are the mitigating effects about that? What about social plans and others? So that, and who's funding that? All that lack of it is what has inflicted the greatest pain on Nigerians. And Nigerians are in pain.
Yeah.
Nobody can deny that. Even those of us that we call the so-called middle class, but we are holding it under. It's not, but nobody's really finding it. They're holding it under. We all try and squeeze ourselves around it. And it's clear. So until you sort out this economic coordination and ensure there's smoothness and efficiency within the system, then you can roll out plans to mitigate poverty. But if you don't, you still have these pains continuing. You still have the challenges you have already. You still have the down. I mean, so states are getting more money. Nobody's going to do that. But again, these states are not responsible for lifting up poverty. They transmit what you do at the top along your indices to them. And so you import food this period, you stop importing food, you do this, you do that. No synergy, no coordination, no economic strategy, no playbook. There's nothing I can read and say, okay, here's economic direction. So when we do this, we'll achieve this. When we do this, we'll achieve this. When we do this, we'll achieve this. When we think this is not working, this is what's remaining. It might exist on paper in the plans you had before you came to the government.
Right.
But in implementation, there's nothing.
Interesting.
And the agencies are failing. It's the truth.
Interesting that you also raised the issue that, of poverty and people living in harsher conditions. There's a video that is trending. I don't know whether you've seen it, of Mr. Taiwo Oyedele making a public speech and saying that, look, when people ask that, okay, has your life been better, since the Tinubu administration came into office or not? He says, of course, the obvious answer, like we have even discussed now, is that it has gotten worse. There's devaluation, and that affects, a lot of the things, that people buy. There is the problem that came out of this, removal of subsidy, that goes directly to living conditions. But he argues, as Mr. Oyedele in that video, he argues that it's a wrong question to ask whether your life has gotten better in the last 3 years or, I don't know the date of the video. He argues that that's the wrong question. And this is his argument, and I want you to respond to it. He argues and said that, look, the situation could have been worse. That what was going on before the Tinubu administration came was that NNPC was not even paying any remittances anymore. There was, to make matters worse, advance, where they were looking for money, advance, or is it forward sales of oil, to even benchmark or try to be like the guarantee for loans. They were printing money, which we have now known, with Emefiele there, that if all of that, of course, subsidy had to go, And his argument is that if all of that weren't stopped, that the economy would have completely collapsed. So he said that it's the wrong question. That, yeah, of course, the answer is what it is, but that the question is wrong to say we should expect things to be better. But that what the Tinubu administration has done is to sort out all those things, stop, printing money, try and see, stop the subsidy, so that there is no more leakages, and I guess, trying to see what they can do, getting NNPC now to get the money in and all of that. What's your response? I mean, you are an expert in this, man.
Well, it's funny because when I saw the video myself,
oh, good,
I saw the video. It's viral, as you said. My question was, why didn't you say this before you campaigned? Would you have voted you to tell us this is what you're coming to do? Let's be honest with ourselves. I mean, you can't start saying such things after. It's not your place to tell people that. They didn't ask you to tell them why their life's not better. They called you to not tell them the worst possible scenario. Your job is to tell people the possible outcome scenario that will come forward. So by asking people that they ask me a question, no, you don't do that. That's a bad and poor communications from anybody in leadership. When you are elected into leadership, your job and assignment is to give hope to people, telling them, "Oh, if you didn't do this, yeah, but that's why they voted for you." Why, if they knew you wouldn't make their life better, they would have tried that path and collapsed. But you didn't come in and collapse. It's a common thing.
Let's interpret that.
It means that if you're a deity and you can't change my life, leave me as I was. It's a simple thing. So that thing shouldn't be said. And it's come from trying to defend the gains of the reforms. But the problem is people don't care about reforms. People care about the impact of their life. Somebody wrote a very lovely article yesterday on social media. Oh, this and everything. Guy said, okay, after you've said that, my fridge is empty. That's what the guy said. He said, look, my fridge is still empty. And if you say my fridge is still empty, that means you haven't translated your impact. So let's not stop about the question we're asking. Tell us the solutions you're making. Give us a pathway to where the benefits will be felt. Tell us this is the timeline of what you're doing. Introduce social safety systems in place. It's very simple and it's not very complicated. When you look at the aggregate income of a family, you look at where their discretionary spend. When you're trying to mitigate suffering, you take away discretionary spend around it. So if you want something on education, saying, okay, for now funding and everything, what have you done on transportation? Oh, we said the LNG. Where are the buses? Where are the LNG plants? Where are the LNG gases? Where is it flooding the market? In Egypt, you can rent a car for $10 a day because of LNG. It's a truth. It's not
CNG.
CNG, sorry. Yeah. My apologies, CNG. Other things like that.
Yeah, we haven't seen the CNG.
Wait. So that's lack of coordination. So when you're taking a subsidy, which was a good thing to take out, that CNG should have been available. Even the crisis we had in Iran now, Nigerians would have been a little bit not as impacted as it is. One day I was buying fuel and I had to pay 120,000 for a full tank. I cursed. My dad said, this money is so much money. And I'm one of the people that supported the valuation and the regulation of the economy and everything. So I'm not going to stay, okay, but when you feel it, you know it. Yeah. So don't tell us the question you should ask. How much worse it could have been, but that's not how you met it. When Buhari left, there were markers and indicators. Now, we knew all you say might be true, but didn't you know about this path before you take it? If you can't bring a patient who is in a crisis situation until the doctor says, oh, if I didn't stabilize you, you'll have been dead. And when I'm dying, I came to you to save my life. So you're not telling me, no, if I intubate you or put into coma, no, that's not what to tell the patient.
Very, 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 very important point. And, I felt when I saw the video that, okay, look, even if we grant that, just like you also said, where is the mitigating, initiatives indeed? Look, for instance, now, the social investment program thing, we've not had anything.
Totally collapsed. Totally gone.
I mean, so I see the problem of a bit of insensibility. It's like they are insensitive.
So let me even interrupt you to say something. You see, when you have dialogues, people who are impacted, you can't, let me use a scenario that most can relate to. When you want to have a large project in the family unit, the head of family might call over and say, well, we need to cut down some part of our life. Some things have to change for us. Yeah. And because of that, because we want to build a house, so therefore, maybe meat once a week, maybe egg 2 days. He doesn't now start eating 5 eggs and 8 pieces of meat. there has been no attempt, not even a small, to show a correlation of the pains we are feeling and you in leadership. Your expenditure levels haven't changed. In fact, the oppression has gone to the point of it as a national part. You see elected and public officials highlighting their new cars, showing their new Benzes, their new Jeeps, their new S-classes, and their new crap. You see them displaying on social media. You see the way they try. People are upset and angry and hungry. You don't shove it in their face. You would say, okay, there's a pain. Where's the cut you're taking?
Right.
You still see them in business classes when you're flying. Some of them in first classes. The parent makes an announcement. It doesn't happen. Doesn't change anything. So it's beyond the sensitivity. And I don't care attitude. And I don't care attitude in other places get punished during elections.
Yeah.
Because that level of sensitivity is too high.
Yeah.
It's too high. You still go. They went to London. They went en masse as if it was a jamboree. You think, what is wrong with you? You're an economy suffering. You're going there to look for opportunities. And then you went to ostentatious display. You go to anything, it's the largest contingent that goes. There's no sign of cutting down. Every day there's 2 new essays, 5 new essays, 4 3 essays. Who runs a government like that? Bloated cost, bloated level of governance, and then shove it in your face. New cars, new jeeps. You drive now Abuja here is very annoying and embarrassing. The money you are paying, the police people that you are paying with your tax are shoving out of the road for somebody that is not paying any. It doesn't make any sense. So there's no attempt to correlate the reality of most Nigerians with your leadership.
Yeah.
And it's a bad signal. The optics are very bad.
Yeah, but you see, but the flip side of it is that we haven't really seen, so I served in the Buhari administration, and one of the reasons why I get very critical with some of these things is that the kind of thing that we are saying now, that's what we said for 8 years. Do you understand? And so it can be very draining. That, okay, so for how long are we going to say this? But, Mr. Adimu, who says that we have not even seen from among the opposition, we have not seen any clear attempt to say that, look, these are the options. As a policy analyst, are you worried about that as we conclude?
Let me say I'm frightened about that.
Oh, frightened.
And yes. And I'll say it on my own page on social media today. And last few days, I've been talking about trying to look at the gains of subsidy savings and how much more revenue is going to the states. Facts, not illusions. But everybody, when challenging me, is like, well, there's pain and everything. But the point I ask them is, where is the other party? Who is in that other space that you want to bring forward that's going to change your life? They're not thinking about anything. People are talking about the president's birthplace, his mother, and what do I care about that anymore? He's been elected, he's president, whatever you have, it's junk. Come and tell us what you will do differently.
Yeah.
Will Atiku reverse subsidy? Will they reverse the regulation?
Will
they do that? Mechi or Kokwanso, would they? Have they talked any economic plan, economic gain? Have they discussed how they will stop managing borrowing and reduce level of funding? Have they thought about any better economy? It's a different thing to even talk and not even do, which we've seen a lot. Right. There's not even talk. All you are talking about is that they don't want INEC to register a party. They want any party. Who cares about parties? You party, APC is P, ADC is D. They say PAC is in Meiji. No issue. So, a lot of people are really disenchanted. And there's anger on the streets.
Yeah.
And I tell even Nigerians, my personal take is, Nigerians don't want change. I'm sincere. I said, if you want change, you won't be considering the options you have. You will look for an option that's better. They are there. So if you are considering options we have, well, say the same old thing. It's going to be the same old wine in different cup. Yeah. And the wine will taste the same.
Well, let's hope that the opposition is actually going to show us.
Which opposition?
Because, and this is part of the reason why some of us are arguing that, look, we must have a choice.
We must.
I think it was Femi Falana that said that, look, let the people choose which of the oppressors.
That's what I said. I said, let them choose their poison.
But there's one more thing quickly. I have just about 2 minutes left.
All right, sir.
Should we give the governors, that kind of leeway with the kind of money that they have? Don't they also have responsibility, especially in agriculture? Nothing stops them in education, in health. In those areas, the governors can make a change in their state. Should we just give them...
You're spying on my social media wall. Exactly what I've been saying. But people don't hear that. See, there's a thing about it. If I'm a Nigerian and I'm going to contest, I'll contest for governorship. Governors have nothing, no accountability. They roughshod the House of Assembly. Those guys are puppets.
Yeah.
They don't do anything.
It's terrible.
They're not accountable to anybody. There are no NGOs here at the base. Just do everything.
No focus like we have on
everybody
the
looks at one person. And meanwhile, there are elements of people who know what they're doing. There are some few states who have shown that they are capable of mitigating problems of their people. I expected states that were thinking about it during this period of the Iranian crisis, find alternative levels of transportation for their people, or not ways of working. I expect grains and other things to be done. But even the state governments are trying some things. I mean, with the decentralized power supply.
Yeah.
Has anybody taken up the challenge?
Well,
maybe two.
Yeah.
Maybe the governor of Abia State and potentially Enugu is on the way.
Yeah, I think Anambra too.
That's the kind of things you want to see.
Yeah.
You want people to think about how you can solve it. You want them to think about, look, now there's a gas process. There's a gas program going on. Take advantage of it. All the AKB putting together. But you see, the point about it is that Nigerians themselves, we are more focused on politics and governance. Every discussion you have on issues is on politics, never on governance. And Nigerians can differentiate what policy is and what governance is.
Interesting. Well, so we are getting to the politics, even though it seems as if we never ended politics.
It's never in Nigeria. Never.
But let's hope for the best. We keep on pushing. Keep on talking about these issues. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Ademola Adigun, policy analyst.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your views. Thank you for the insights.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Now, that's a segment. I'm going to now conclude the interview I started on Friday with retired General Anthony Atolagbe. Inside Sources will be right back. So the summary of that, your report, I'd like to read it, and then you have a comment to move on to another topic. Okay. It says that state action required include establishing a fusion center, securing funding, conducting a state census of the conflict areas, and recruiting snipers. Operation Enduring Peace, which used to be Operation Safe Haven that you commanded, mandates status quo maintenance, enforcing a no-drone zone, night patrols, and utilizing the military as fulcrum of the fusion center. I wanted to ask you, so recruiting snipers and a state census of the conflict areas, how do you think that is progressing based on what you know, or useful?
Okay. Me and you, we are aware that most of the places where these actions have taken place have been abandoned by the locals. And they have been taken over by these elements. In fact, not only that they have been taken over, they have been renamed.
Yeah.
So
we mentioned some of the names on this show.
So what we're saying is there has to be what we call conflict mapping. A conflict mapping will come out with the entire layout of what we used to have before, what it is now, what is the population then, what is the population now, and where are the people that have been driven away from this place to this other place. Because there will be a time that people in refugee camps will need to be resettled. As I'm speaking, they have no home to go to. There are instances where they take people for burial in their village where they grew up, and they come under fire.
When they were doing the burial.
Yes. So they don't have access to their homes.
And we're talking of the fire of these insurgents, whatever they are called.
Yes, sir. So that is what the mapping and then when we talk about snipers, we're talking about some specialized, firemen, perhaps of the infantry, they have some special forces that are in the Air Force, and these ones, they need them on the ground. You understand? Because we need to be able to take people with just one shot, not by using several shots to see how we can get one person down, but with people who are of sniper category. You understand? It saves time, it saves resources, and they are able to achieve a lot within a very short period of time.
So when
because of their proficiency in weapon handling.
Yeah. So when the I think it's the defense minister that said that, if you see anybody carrying AK-47, you should just shoot aside.
Yes.
So the snipers will seem to be a very good
They will be the best.
Implement that.
Exactly. That is what that's what is expected.
Okay. So we don't know whether these things are already happening.
Well, when such pronouncements are made, normally there are
some kind of arrangement.
Yes, there are arrangements, but through some we call it like doing a review of that kind of comment. When you do such reviews, it comes on the table. And then you see how do you now implement and make it to be workable. And then you start saying the words of the minister coming to play on the ground.
Okay. So I have just about 2 minutes left, but I wanted you to answer this question because the Chief of Defense Staff, I think, recently said that in order to contain some of these recent bombings in the Northeast, that the federal government has been able, or perhaps the military, to block access of uranium.
Urea.
Urea. Let me take that thing. Take two.
Minister,
okay. Take two. I'll take that question again. Yeah, so I wanted to ask you one more question before we wrap up. So the Minister of Defense was quoted to have said that the urea that is normally used for the making up of some of these explosions that has been happening recently in the Northeast, that federal government has now been able to block access of those insurgents to the urea. Do you think that is all it takes to deny, those insurgents access to that component that is used?
Okay. That action by the federal government is plausible, but we can still go one step further. In Mali, the explosions that were taking place in northern Mali were not derivable from the sale of urea within Mali. Southern Algeria has 3 fertilizer companies. So the forces of the French forces, which were the parallel force to the UN mission where I was,
right,
had to liaise with the Algerian government to stop sales across the border.
Okay.
You understand? So their outflow was to go within the country, but then not south of the country anymore. So, and this was able to stop the explosions that were taking place in some locations within northern Mali then.
Okay.
So I'm trying to say that northern Cameroon, there are 4 major suppliers of fertilizers.
Oh, wow.
In 2025, they established 1 fertilizer company. 2025.
Okay.
So we still need to go further and
to block
and speak to Cameroon to see how we can control their sales of fertilizers so that these our guys don't have access to this urea.
Very important counsel there that you have given, and I hope that the authorities are listening, and some of these your reports are quite incisive. It helps us to be able to look at core technical issues that can help us turn around what is clearly a menace in our land. And thank you so much for your contributions. Thank you for your expertise. And thank you for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you, sir.
All right. And there you have it, another edition of Inside Sources. Like we always say, Nigeria will prevail. It means Nigeria will win, partly because we will push some of the big issues here. My name is Laolu Akonde. Thank you for watching. And by the grace of God, I'll see you at the next edition.